Lời đầu tiên xin chào các độc giả đã đến với website rèn luyện kỹ năng.com. Khi tìm đến với website rèn luyện kỹ năng, chắc hẳn bạn đang mong muốn tìm cho mình một công cụ tốt nhất trong quá trình rèn luyện kỹ năng. Kỹ năng ở đây có thể là kỹ năng lãnh đạo, kỹ năng bán hàng, kỹ năng mềm, kỹ năng sống và rất nhiều các kỹ năng khác. Thông thường khi nghĩ đến việc rèn luyện các kỹ năng như chúng tôi đã đề cập ở trên, chúng ta thường hay nghĩ đến việc tìm mua cái đầu sách hoặc tham gia các chương trình hội thảo. Nhưng trong cuộc sống bận rộn của thế kỷ 21, thời gian và tiền bạc là hai thứ luôn bị giới hạn nhiều nhất. Với sự ra đời của website rèn luyện kỹ năng.com, chúng tôi mang đến cho bạn một công cụ tốt hơn trong việc rèn luyện kỹ năng của mình, đó chính là các DVD rèn luyện kỹ năng. Bạn sẽ không còn phải tốn quá nhiều thời gian để đọc sách hay tốn quá nhiều tài chính để tham gia các chương trình hội thảo. Chỉ cần bỏ DVD vào đầu máy, ngay lập tức bạn đã có thể tận hưởng những thước phim quý giá được chia sẻ từ các diễn giả nổi tiếng tại Việt Nam và trên thế giới. Website rèn luyện kỹ năng.com cung cấp đầy đủ cho bạn các DVD rèn luyện kỹ năng trên nhiều lĩnh vực. Tất cả các DVD rèn luyện kỹ năng của các diễn giả nước ngoài có tại website rèn luyện kỹ năng.com đều có phụ đề 100%, hỗ trợ tối đa cho quý độc giả khi theo dõi. Rèn luyện kỹ năng.com cam kết chất lượng tất cả các DVD khi cung cấp cho quý khách hàng. Với hân hạnh được phục vụ cho rất nhiều các khách hàng trên cả nước. Chỉ cần click đặt hàng, trong vòng 1 đến 3 ngày, bạn đã có thể cầm sản phẩm trong tay. Rèn luyện kỹ năng hân hạnh được phục vụ quý khách.
Every subject that you need to learn has a core idea. And once you've understood what that core idea is, then everything else that you learn adds to your expertise and makes sense because it fits into that overall big idea. Well, the big idea, the core idea in accelerated learning is that everyone has a personal learning style, a way of learning that suits them best. And once you've found the learning tools, the strategies, if you like, that match that personal learning style, well, you'll be learning in ways that suit your particular brain. And because it's therefore more natural, it's more comfortable, and it's easier. And because it's easier, it's quicker. Hence the name Accelerated Learning. Well, this video will give you dozens of ideas to learn better and faster. Try them, pick the ones that suit you best, and you'll have a set of learning tools that's custom made for your brain. But why would you want to become a faster learner? I think there are 5 reasons. First, knowledge is doubling every 2 or 3 years. There's more to read, there's more to know. What you know today, unfortunately, won't buy you success tomorrow. Secondly, the average person now leaving college can expect 5 careers in a lifetime. That's not jobs, that's careers. Thirdly, nobody today can guarantee their employment. But what you can do is you can guarantee your employability, which comes from constantly expanding your skills and simply learning faster than your competitors. Fourthly, we're in the era of mind power, not manpower. To earn more, you have to learn more. And fifthly, technology is the driving force today, and of course it's changing faster and faster. It's all summed up in one word: change. The constant upgrading of your skills, lifelong learning, is the minimum threshold to stay competitive today. And in such a fast-changing world, learning how to learn surely has to be the core skill, because what you learn can, in fact, will become out of date. How to learn, well, that's a skill for life. And that's incidentally why I really hope that you'll share the techniques on this video with your children. Let me spend a few moments talking about your brain, because that's, of course, what you learn with. 90% of what we now know about the human brain has been discovered in the last 20 years, and accelerated learning is based upon those important new discoveries. Accelerated learning, as you'll see, consciously starts with the big picture because that suits the faster, global, learning right side of the brain. But then it presents information logically to suit the more linear left side of the brain. Here's one of the most fascinating of the new discoveries. There's a middle part of the brain which is a key to your learning. This middle brain controls your emotions, your immune system, a lot of the long-term memory, and it acts rather like a filter. Now, information coming into your brain from your senses passes through this middle brain, but if you're under stress, well, that information may not get released properly to the top thinking brain. The final information you need on your brain is that the idea of a single fixed form of intelligence, which you can measure as an IQ, has, I'm pleased to say, been discredited. In its place, Dr. Howard Gardner, who's professor of education at Harvard University, has shown that we have at least seven different forms of intelligence, and maybe an eighth. Each of those intelligences represents a resource for learning. You have a linguistic intelligence, the ability to absorb and use the written and spoken word. A mathematical logical intelligence, the ability to handle numbers and sequences and logically presented data. There's a visual spatial intelligence. You use this in navigation, in drawing, sculpture, diagrams. There's a physical intelligence, the ability to use your body well. Interpersonal, the ability to communicate well, to read other people's moods and body language sensitively. There's an intrapersonal intelligence. That's an inner-directed intelligence, the ability to be reflective, to make plans, to draw conclusions. And finally, a musical intelligence, the ability to use rhythm and rhyme well. Now, the result of all our research on learning and the brain has led us to see that effective learning follows 6 stages. Let me go over them briefly. Stage 1, your state of mind. You need to be relaxed, motivated and focused. In other words, to mobilize that middle brain. Stage 2, whatever you're learning, it involves fresh information coming into your brain from the outside. So learning involves seeing and hearing and doing. And the more sharply your senses are focused on the subject, the better you will learn. Stage 3, you've now taken in the information. Well, now you need to actively explore the subject to make it your own. And that's when you'll use as many of your intelligences as possible. Stage 4, having understood the subject, you still need to commit it to memory in such a way that a simple trigger will cause the rest of the information to come flooding back. Stage 5, you now need to know, if you do know, to test yourself. In other words, do I really know this? And finally, stage 6, you need to reflect upon the whole process. In other words, to think back on which techniques really worked well for you and which ones might need to be modified. You see, you're now thinking not so much about what you've learned, but about how you learned it. These 6 stages provide an organized framework for fast and effective learning. But what do you actually do at each stage? Well, that's what my colleagues Malcolm Nicol and Jane Nicol are going to show you now with the aid of a studio audience of potential accelerated learners.
Welcome to Accelerated Learning. I'm Malcolm Nicol.
And I'm Jane Nicol.
Before you begin to learn anything, you need to get in the right state of mind for learning. That means that you have to have a belief in your own inherent ability to learn anything and to have fun, to find learning an enjoyable and fruitful experience. You really have to have that unerring belief. Let me give you a few examples of what I mean. You think of some of the most famous, most intelligent, most creative people in the world. Think of Walt Disney, for instance. Would you believe he was actually fired by a newspaper editor for lack of creative ideas? Einstein couldn't speak until he was 4, couldn't read until he was 7. And Beethoven, he was actually told by a music teacher that he was hopeless as a composer. And we all know what happened to those people.
What I'd like you to do now is think back to a time when you succeeded at something. It may be back in your childhood, it could have been in sport, it could have been in learning, at school. Something, a time when you felt so proud and people congratulated you. You were a success. Bring back those feelings. What were people saying to you? What were you feeling? What were you seeing? How did it make you stand tall and proud? Those are the feelings of success that you need to start learning with. You can learn, you can be successful because you've been successful before. This will really help to get you in the right frame of mind. And it helps you to feel better because the mind actually affects the body. So as you think these positive thoughts about your successful time, you'll actually find that you're standing or sitting a little bit straighter and that you're feeling much more ready for what we're going to do. Now, from the beliefs that you have, you actually can start by breathing very, very carefully. Your brain is only 4% of your body weight, but it actually requires 20% of the oxygen. So when you start learning, it's very important that you clear your mind and take some deep breaths to clear away all the stress and strain of the day. And again, if we'd like to sort of just join in here now, just 5 or 10 cycles of breathing in and feeling the oxygen getting into your lungs so that it can get to the brain to help you get ready to learn. And you go, breathe in gently, hold it for a couple of seconds, and then out nice and gently. And again, in and you keep going, and as you're breathing out, you will feel the stress and the strain going. You will get your brain ready, nice and clear, and we should always employ this tactic before you start learning. It makes a break from what's been going on in the day, from all those things that buzz around in our heads. We're going to start learning now, so relaxed. This creates a very relaxed, focused frame of mind.